Namaskar, hello and welcome to Know the Nobles Forum for 6th of October 2023. Today was certainly a solemn occasion when the Norwegian Nobel Committee at Oslo, Nobel Peace Prizes are announced from Oslo and they are also given away in Oslo. And the Norwegian Nobel Committee decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize 2023 to Nargis Mohammadi for her fight against the oppression of women in Iran and her fight to promote human rights and freedom for all. And it's a solemn occasion because Nargis Mohammadi is imprisoned in one of the prisons of Iran, and we really don't know that she would be able to come to Oslo to receive this prize in person from her incarceration. So yesterday when we saw that expressing human feelings by way of literature, the intricate, the intertwined human feelings is one part of the story, but then championing a human feeling, championing the human feelings for freedom, for liberties, for a cause is a different matter altogether. So the Nobel Committee has termed Nargis Mohammadi as the symbol of what it means to be a freedom fighter in Iran. So this year's Peace Prize also recognizes the hundreds of thousands of people who in the preceding year have demonstrated against Iran's theocratic regime's policies of discrimination and oppression targeting women. And the motto adopted by the demonstrators, Zan Zindagi Azadi, which reads in English as women, life, freedom, it suitably expresses the dedication and work of Nargis Mohammadi. Since this entire prize, this entire commendation is for an ongoing struggle, ongoing revolution in Iran, and women are at the center stage for life and freedom. I would request Dr. Surbhi, a feminist par excellence in her own right, to take on the presentation of this Know the Nobles Forum, the further slides of them, because this is a tribute to the unwavering spirit of a woman who says no to oppression, who is fighting right from the prison and making the word hear, the I would say the voices of reason, the voices for freedom and whatnot. So taking it forward, I hand it over to Dr. Surbhi to take on the presentation further.
Namaskar. And taking this discussion further, the Norwegian Nobel Committee has decided to award the Nobel Peace Prize for 2023 to Narges Mohammadi for her fight against the oppression of women in Iran and her fight to promote human rights and freedom for all. Her brave struggle has come with tremendous personal costs. Altogether, the regime has arrested her 13 times, convicted her 5 times, and sentenced her to a total of 31 years in prison and 154 lashes. Miss Mohammadi is still in prison. In September 2022, a young Kurdish woman, Mahsa Jina Amini, was killed while in the custody of the Iranian morality police. Her killing triggered the largest political demonstrations against Iran's theocratic regime since it came to power in 1979. Under the slogan, Woman, Life, Freedom, hundreds of thousands of Iranians took part in peaceful protests against the authorities' brutality and oppression of women. The regime cracked down hard on the protests. More than 500 demonstrators were killed. Thousands were injured, including many who were blinded by rubber bullets fired by the police. At least 20,000 people were arrested and held in regime custody. The motto adopted by the demonstrators, Women, Life, Freedom, suitably expresses the dedication and work of Narges Mohammadi. Woman, she fights for women against systematic discrimination and oppression. Life, she supports women's struggle for the right to live full and dignified lives. This struggle across Iran has been met with persecution, imprisonment, torture, and even death. Freedom, she fights for freedom of expression and the right of independence, and against rules requiring women to remain out of sight and to cover their bodies. The freedom demands expressed by demonstrators apply not only to women but to the entire population. In the 1990s, as a young physics student, Narges Mohammadi was already distinguishing herself as an advocate for equality and women's rights. After concluding her studies, she worked as an engineer as well as a columnist in various reform-minded newspapers. In 2003, she became involved with the Defenders of Human Rights Center in Tehran, an organization founded by Nobel Peace Prize laureate Shirin Ebadi. In 2011, Ms. Mohammadi was arrested for the first time and sentenced to many years of imprisonment for her efforts to assist incarcerated activists and their families. 2 years later, after her release on bail, Ms. Mohammadi immersed herself in a campaign against use of the death penalty. Iran has long been among the countries that execute the highest proportion of their inhabitants annually. Just since January 2022, more than 860 prisoners have been punished by death in Iran. Her activism against the death penalty led to the rearrest of Ms. Mohammadi in 2015 and to a sentence of additional years behind walls. Upon her return to prison, she began opposing the regime's systematic use of torture and sexualized violence against political prisoners, especially women, that is practiced in Iranian prisons. Last year's wave of protests became known to the political prisoners held inside the notorious Evin prison in Tehran. Once again, Miss Mohammadi assumed leadership. From prison, she expressed support for the demonstrators and organized solidarity actions among her fellow inmates. The prison authorities responded by imposing even stricter conditions. Miss Mohammadi was prohibited from receiving calls and visitors. She nevertheless managed to smuggle out an article which the New York Times published on the 1 year anniversary of Mahsa Jinnah Amini's killing. The message was, the more of us they lock up, the stronger we become. From captivity, Ms. Mohammadi has helped to ensure that the protests have not ebbed out. Nargis Mohammadi is a woman, a human rights advocate, and a freedom fighter. In awarding her this year's Nobel Peace Prize, the Norwegian Nobel Committee wishes to honor her courageous fight for human rights, freedom, and democracy in Iran. This year's Peace Prize also recognizes the hundreds of thousands of people who, in the preceding year, have demonstrated against the theocratic regime's policies of discrimination and oppression targeting women. Only by embracing equal rights for all can the world achieve the fraternity between nations that Alfred Nobel sought to promote. The award to Nargis Mohammadi follows a long tradition in which the Norwegian Nobel Committee has awarded the Peace Prize to those working to advance social justice, human rights, and democracy. These are important preconditions for lasting peace.
So here we come to the conclusion of today's Nobel Forum. And as these prophetic words, that what are the preconditions for lasting peace? They are social justice, human rights, and democracy. And it is so very, I would say, touching that a young woman is fighting all through in a theocratic regime called Iran for furthering the world peace. And yeah, and as we said in the beginning, that being a philosopher, being a literaturer, being a writer is one thing. Writing, expressing the human feelings is one part, but championing those human feelings, especially at the very complicated or very cumbersome frontier of peace, which entails a lot of political activism, is an entirely different phenomena. We hope and pray from the ages of Rethink India that Miss Amin is released from her incarceration after her award of this prestigious Nobel Peace Prize on her, and she be allowed to fly down to Oslo to receive this coveted recognition. And as the world is moving further and forward, India has set out a phenomenal advancement by passing the Nari Shakti Vandan Adhiniyam, whereby 33% of the legislative seats would be reserved for women across the national parliament and as well as the state legislatures. So from the land of Shakti, from the land of Bhakti, we really hope and pray that women are given their rightful rights in the Iranian regime, and the struggle, whatever is happening, peace prevails in the land of Persia, as it is called. And this has been the core intent at Nobel Forums, to inspire the younger generations, the young educators about what's happening all around, what are the frontiers of sciences and literature and the political frontiers. And on Monday, we would be watching the announcement of the Nobel Prize for Economics, and that would close this entire commemoration for the year 2023. And as a part of the Nobel's Forum, There is a Know the Nobels contest whereby the participants would be picking one or the other themes of Nobel areas, and they would be undertaking a kind of a test on 3rd of December, and they all would be felicitated on the Nobel Day, which is 10th of December, the birthday of Alfred Nobel, whereby all the Nobel laureates are felicitated. Nobel Peace Prize is given in Oslo. So with this, we conclude today's session with a solemn prayer once more, and a solemn support to the fight, women, life and freedom, the struggle which is going on in the land of Iran. And we hope and pray that both the quarters, the regime as well as the agitators, they come to a amicable resolution and take the human spirit to a peaceful existence in the noble land of Iran. So thank you so much. We'll be back again on Monday. Have a happy weekend, and I would say, and do mull over with these sentimental thoughts which these Nobel laureates across, be it the medicine, field of medicine, be it perseverance, be it the field of physics, be it the field of chemistry, be it literature, or be it peace, the perseverance which they all bring to the table, the lifelong pursuit for their chosen field is something to get inspired from. So with these words, we close and we meet next on the concluding session of Nobel Forums 2023 on Monday, 9th of October. Till then,